Welcome back to the Marketing Madmen on Extra 106.3. We got Squeaky over there.
I'm ready.
And we got Colleen Craig, owner of The Vibe. So we are going to, and I'm not going to give this the justice it deserves, but for the sake of keeping the attention of the listeners and making sure we cover everything we need to, in the 70s, yes, my mother, she was an immigrant from from Italy, came over to Queens, Ellis Island, full thing. Not a good athlete, but 5'10". She went to Queens College. My mother was the first person to ever go to even high school, let alone college, got a master's degree, but because of the laws that changed in Title VII, she was a basketball player. Queens College was like, you look like you could play basketball, go. And she was put on a team, and it was her obligation to feminism, as the way she said it to me, to play basketball, even though she had no skill sets to play basketball. Fast forward now, so much has happened in women's sports. Two things off the top of my head were, so Brittany Griner going to jail in Russia over an instance that we still don't know what really happened, was a changing one, because I think it changed the pace of how women had to leave to go play athletics elsewhere. And the other one was Caitlin Clark finally driving the ratings and the demand and the male viewership that was required to make people be like, oh my God, this might really be a thing. I'm sure there were plenty more moments, and I'm sure you can summate it much better, but I do want to catch it up because I think due credit is due to how fast and how far that the sports have become.
One quick thing here. I've got a son who's a jock. He's played everything. He's 31 years old, and up until...
Hopefully he got some of his mommy's genes, huh?
He's adopted from Russia. So he's 6'2", 260. So I call him sir. So at the end of the day, he never watched a women's sporting event until the last year and a half, and now he's tuned in. It's like a switch was thrown.
Yep.
You know,
and it's fascinating you say that. So I have 3 boys,
okay,
and one of them is a senior in high school, and we have volleyball on. So in our household, that's just what's on. That is one of he's avid. He's watching football. He's watching soccer. He's a stats guy.
Yeah.
So he's out there and he has his fantasy teams and all those types of things. And he walked downstairs and he was like, "Mom, where can I get the stats? You know, do you have a fantasy team for volleyball?" Yeah. There's no, in the current environment, there's no differentiation in their mind of this can't be, this shouldn't be, this is normal. It's normal in our household. And it's super encouraging for where everything's going.
Yeah. Well, look, I agree with you, but my concern is always then becomes gambling, and then we take the sanctity out of it, and then there's NIL deals going to 13-year-olds. So, like, I've seen the dirty side of it also.
Yeah, I'm not getting down that path.
Right.
Yes,
so there is a healthy medium that we haven't even gotten to that point of equilibrium yet, which I agree. I just get concerned sometimes because I see the other side of this and how you're paying kids in high school and what these schools are demanding, and all of a sudden now everything's gambling and how addicting and how much they play off the chemicals in your head. So let's skip all that part.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so where we are right now, talk about how women's volleyball, talk about how it's evolved out of the high school and the collegiate space and how it became the opportunity for professional sports.
Yeah, so women's volleyball is actually the largest team sport for girls in the United States. Most people do not realize that.
Yeah,
so
you think soccer? I would guess soccer.
100%. So, rewind that. We can give you the statistics, but it's not basketball and it's not soccer. And those are wonderful, and we're super supportive of those sports. We don't feel like we're competing against them from that perspective. So it's volleyball. It is in the southeast, right where we sit in Georgia. Actually, the southeast region for USA Volleyball is the 4th largest in the country. We have one of the largest juniors events in the United States is held right here at the GWCC. It's called Big South, and you will see tens and thousands of people. If you're downtown during the time, you see the girls walking around with their knee pads and all those types of things.
It's crazy.
It's absolutely crazy. So there's this whole world that's going on that just hasn't pierced through. I'd say kind of popped that pierce through the mainstream media. So with social media, with different outlets, with Instagram, it's allowed this platform to come forward. So it's there. It's been there. It's been percolating behind the scenes. And right now, what happens if you play volleyball? You work your way through high school, you go and play in college, and then you have to make a really big decision. You alluded to Brittany Griner. You have to decide, do I give up the sport that I've just dedicated my life to, grinding just like basketball players and football players and soccer players do, or do I go overseas to play? And, invariably, a lot of them choose not to go overseas because it's questionable for all those reasons. So,
where are we talking about overseas? Where are there bigger leagues over there? Eastern Europe? Where are the leagues?
Italy is one of the big leagues. So volleyball, on an international perspective as well, is one of the top, depending on what source, don't call me on it, call me out on it, it's top 5, top 7 sports in the world.
Okay.
Again, it's just hasn't gone through here. So this is where you talk about now, it seems like there's this resurgence of volleyball all of a sudden. It's actually, the overnight success wasn't really overnight.
Right.
That's a little bit of what's
it's one of those sports you don't need equipment to play. You can play a beach, you need a net, and you can play volleyball. And that's a good thing, I believe, because that's what we look for in other countries. Access. It's easy access. It's multiple. You can play on the beach, you can play on here, you can do this, which I think it helps sports. That's why soccer is so big.
And also from a volleyball perspective, one of the things I think it's great is you can be incredibly powerful and athletic and dynamic. You come out to our matches and you will see it's incredible the plays, their verticals, the speed at which the ball travels, etc. And still, wear jewelry if you want, makeup, look pretty, all of those types of things. So I think there's a lot of support. I'll go back to my brothers. Why do they cheer after every point, even after you lose? That's just the environment of volleyball. They're very uplifting. Let's go. Let's be a goldfish. Forget about the last point. Let's move to the next one and make things better.
But you can be both. You can be competitive, and you can be hungry, and you can still cheer for the other team. And then that's a problem with male sports and sports in general. Is we've tried to make this divide. It's either win or go home. It's the end of it. That's not the truth. You can root for everybody, be a good sport, and still win.
Yeah, so there's something I'm going to throw at you. It's going to take a second. So I would say, I read this once and it's stuck with me. And the difference between is stereotype alert. So again, don't hold me too much to this, but men compete to bond. So you go out with your buddies, you get on the basketball court, you throw some good hoops, you win a good 3-on-3, and you're like, let's go grab a beer, let's go hang out, right? You compete to bond. Women bond to compete. So we get to know each other. We like to know each other on the field. We like to practice together. If we trust each other, then on the court, we're successful. And I say that because there's a fundamental difference in how we relate. And so when you see volleyball out there, you see the cheering and you see the support, because that's genuine. That's how we get together. And that connectivity and that communication amongst the team is what elevates them to the next level.
I'm going to challenge you back for 1 second, because I think the best men's teams have stolen that from you. I think if you look at someone like the Golden State Warriors and the way that team vibed, they were not the best athletes on the court. They were not playing old school basketball, but they knew where each other were going to be. They spent time together. If you look at the Clemson Tigers, that team was so good because they built a facility where they did everything together, and they were set to not leave. They got their haircut, they ate, they drank, video games, everything was done in this facility. So I think that somebody figured out your trick, and now every team is starting to realize how important that is.
The other day, I was listening to Tony Gwynn's son, from the Padres, and he was talking about what was the big difference this year, and he said everybody is friends. He said they got rid of the guys. They were super athletes and stuff, but there was contention. The guys were out for themselves. He said, we are all friends. We go to dinner, we bonded, and you're seeing the difference on the field. The Braves have kind of always been that way because of the culture of the organization. And when you see the women volleyball teams together, the professionals here and the PVF, they're very similar to what you're seeing inside the locker room at the Braves.
And I think you're right. And that's why I said stereotype alert, because it's not hard and fast, and it's not one or the other, because absolutely.
But perception is reality. It's perceived that way for sure. We absolutely have to actually compete too, right? Because that's ultimately, if you're showing up in our gym, we're going to win, and we want to win a championship. So it's, there's that balance between the two. But from a background perspective, I think it's just an interesting way to think about and view some of these sports. Yeah, one of the things when Caitlin Clark made it to the WNBA, you can tell in the first couple of games they were trying to beat her up. They were trying to test her and see how good she was. And once they felt like she was one of the cool kids and she was good, she went off and had the best end of a season that anyone could have had. They were deliberately, because I don't think it was a purposeful thing. I think it was that competitive instinct, like, let's see how tough she really is. And she held her own, and then all of a sudden the season she had was insane. So that has to happen also, though. It has to be that we got to make sure these people can fit with what we're trying to accomplish.
100%. And I think she's a breakout, and I think it's phenomenal what she's done for the WNBA, and been able to elevate that as a sport in general. It's fantastic, for women's sports and for all sports.
All right, now we're going to get to the nitty gritty.
All right.
So let's talk about the vibe. So first off, before we go to anything, I love the name. I love to vibe. My head just kind of, I love the concept of it. How did the name come about?
So we did a naming competition. So we reached out to the community. We had over 1,000 responses from 18 different states that came back with names. And, shocking. Wait, I'll ask you the question. What do you think was the top word that came back for a name? Can you think of one? It related to Atlanta.
Beaches.
Peaches?
There you go. Peachtree. Peaches, Peachtree, anything.
Which is so frustrating because there were no peach trees here. That was South Carolina. My understanding, it was actually a peach tree, was a different kind of tree, and they just botched it, so we called it peach tree.
My wife hasn't found a fresh peach all year.
Yes, there we go. So after we eliminated all the Peachtree, that reference, we took a look at the name. We narrowed it down, and we landed on the vibe, really, because to your point, what represents Atlanta? And that's what we were thinking about. I mean, Atlanta has a vibe. We've got, sports, entertainment, theater, food, music. I mean, everyone, there's unique vibes and there's unique pockets all over. So that really resonated with us. And our logo has the bright red A, which is really symbolic of most Atlanta sports. So we wanted to keep with the tradition and then tie it into a little bit contemporary V, which is a little more, vibe. And, the intertwine really is just the integration of all those different facets of Atlanta. And we like to think of it looks a little bit about, Spaghetti Junction in there somewhere.
You just throw some stuff on a plate. That's why they call it Spaghetti Junction. Throw some spaghetti. There it is.
No, we really think that, and that's what we want. We want people to bring their vibe, and we want the team to be representative of Atlanta.
Yeah, no, I love it. And so you were here because you met your husband in Piedmont Park. So when the opportunity presented itself, what did you have to do to get the team? What was it like to pick Atlanta? Obviously, this is a place where you want to be, but it doesn't look like a lot of the other big cities have teams. Is this the biggest city that has a team?
This is Dallas is going to be coming on in 2026. So yes, but we're one of the major markets. But I mean, I don't know if I would. To diminish Vegas, they're pretty big. So you got Vegas in there, you got San Diego.
I lived in Vegas. I lived in Vegas for 7 years. I can diminish it all I want to.
I mean, I 100% knew I wanted to have a team. I have another business that's in the sports space. It's called Rally Volleyball. So I had been around this and looking at how to grow volleyball. I'm involved with several boards in the volleyball space. So back to my hedge fund days, one of the things that I learned for me personally is I like to do my own due diligence.
Okay.
So I want to do my own primary research.
Sure.
I don't want to rely on tried and true. So that's what I was doing in the space of volleyball. So for years we said,
your research was probably better than the people who were paid to do it, I would imagine, right?
Well, a lot of
just
it,
in this conversation?
It's having these conversations. It's talking to people. What issues did you face? Why isn't there a pro league? There seems to be this opportunity.
Yeah.
What's happened? What have been the hurdles? Yeah. Can we overcome them? What does it take?
Your daughter played. She was an amazing star. How come you stopped watching when she stopped playing?
Yeah. These are all of these types of things. How do you understand?
And it's anecdotal to a point, but if you get enough data, then it becomes actual fact because you're hearing from enough people.
Right. So all that was going on, and so when this opportunity for Pro Volleyball Federation came out, I'm like, this is it. I got it, and the time was right. Right. You're starting to feel all the tailwinds around women's sports. I said, now is the time to lean in, and how do I bring
1 and 2 sandwiched between the Olympics, which was in the middle of the Eiffel Tower, in the middle of Paris. Say what you will about the French, and I'll state my opinions for another time. Paris looked pretty freaking good to host the Olympics the way they did. I mean, that was an A+, and I don't give them an A+ for more things other than wine and cheese.
I've talked to 4 ex-Olympians or past Olympians who've been to multiple games, and they said Paris was absolutely, without a doubt, the best.
And you sandwich season 1 and 2 between that. You end your first one right in May, right? And then you're going right into the summertime to have that with everyone watching. 1, because there was content overload. 2, it's a time when most people aren't doing much. There's not much else on. And you go into season 2. So I think it's fantastic. So, let's talk about Gas South. Talk about how that all came about. Talk about why you picked there, what your data showed about the market for it, where you thought people were coming from.
Yeah, so in Gas South and Gwinnett, the Gwinnetians have been fantastic. They are super welcoming. They have a phenomenal facility at Gas South Arena. So all of our teams compete in arenas that have at least 6,000 to 8,000 seat arena. So that was the right size for us from a fan engagement standpoint. We have seats at every price point, from the standing room only to more your executive. We have couches actually on some of our end lines to engage those fans and community. So we were looking at Gas South. A lot of, as I mentioned earlier, Georgia and the Southeast has a phenomenal junior club base as well. So a lot of those families can easily get to the arena, as well as the corporate sponsorships, et cetera. So
yeah, I love it. I think it's great because you talked about coming to the Georgia World Congress Center to play volleyball. Well, now there's a team here, so you can pull the whole region. You're coming in from Birmingham or Montgomery or Greenville because you're the hub of everything here. Like Atlanta runs until you get to Miami and really to Charlotte until you get to Charlotte, you're pulling everybody in here for college football, for politics. This is the hub of the spoken wheel hub of everything. So now you're pulling people in also.
Yeah, and I'm going to tap on it a little bit. You're talking about the Olympics. So couple of things. One, our libero Morgan Hens was in Paris with our U.S. team. And the second is our coach, Caleb Anworth, was actually in the 2016 representing Team USA in the Rio Olympics.
The highest level of competition you can be
at. You can have. And as a side note, if anyone's watching college volleyball right now, Shelley Fanning is an assistant coach for Georgia Tech, who is one of the ranked ones, is going to make a run for it this year. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. As you look at your current physical location and you look at the team in the future, is your thought process that you might want to create some type of a volleyball training center, some type of an epicenter for the sport in the area? We
would love to. I mean, and Don, you hit right on it, Squeaky. Where we want to go with all that, and that's really where the community engagement comes in, because those initiatives, we feel like we're really building a community asset. This is we want this out there for the generations to come, and we would love to look at different partners building that training center and that training facility. And the good news is, I think you alluded to, we don't need the same type of infrastructure as some of the other sports.
Yeah.
It's fairly straightforward.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a challenging one.
Okay.
And so you were influential in bringing the federation in the first place and starting this. So whenever there is opportunity, you did your due diligence and you saw that there was a lot of opportunity in the sport in the future. That means there's a lot of competitors. That means there's a lot of probably not as bad, let's call them bad actors, that are just coming in to make the money grab. We have seen sports leagues start and fail over and over and over again. When you guys laid out the plans for the team and the league, what were the priorities to make sure that this one was authentic and real and had staying power versus some of these leagues that come in, you can tell it's a cash grab and they falter 2 years later?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic question, and that's what every new league goes through, right? So, ours, from a league structure, for those who want to get in kind of the business side of the equation, there's a league and there's a league office, and then there's franchises. So, each of the teams, and I think that's where you have to do the diligence on the team owners, having the staying power, having the fortitude, and one of the
you're obviously the coolest. If we're doing the due diligence, we got that. I mean, we know that's it. Okay.
She's got the T-shirt.
Yeah. I think one of the questions that we ask with a lot of the new franchise owners and the people that are raising their hands is, what's your why? Why are you in this? Because anybody who knows anything about sports teams, these do not turn, you're not looking this for a cash flow, opportunity. And if you're in for the wrong reasons, this is not the right thing. And, there's going to be missteps. There always are missteps, along the way, but having that structure up front and having, major league owners. So some of our other franchises are owned by teams who also own other pro sports teams. So having that guidance, that wisdom and experience behind our league is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think there were finally mechanisms put in place to realize the bad owners. I think that for a long time, the bad owners, the community knew they were bad, but now, especially when you think of Dan Snyder and the Redskins, and now Tepper, and they wanted these people out. The league, the fans, they wanted them out, right? Like, so the other side of it is that they're protected to an extent. Like, I'm a diehard Knicks fan, as big of a Knicks fan as there is. You know what? They could be the worst team in America, and they'll sell out Madison Square Garden every time. So James Dolan sits with his handbag, doesn't care. You know what? This year I don't care about, with the way they're playing and who they got, what James Dolan does, because now they're winning. Yeah. So that's the thing, is right. Yeah. Winning cures all, and I found Atlanta to be a town that loves you when you win and forgets you real fast when you lose. The United was a great example. I've never seen more hype around a team when that team came and they won. Now they're literally trying to beg to give tickets away because it is just that kind of town. What do you do about that?
We win.
Yes. So Colleen, talk a little bit about, you can mention names if you want to, but interest from people of note to be part of the team.
I am going to punt on that one, but I will tell you that there is a lot of major league owners from other sports that are interested and are vested in the Pro Volleyball Federation. So
it is a very unified. So just from what we do, I'm around Derek Schiller and Steve Koonin and a lot of the big guys, and they really are around each other, and they work together for what's best for the town more than people think. They're competitive, they have to be. Correct. Right? But it's also, you're not going to compete the Hawks against the Braves, right? TBS behind it was just a reason in itself that you don't, but they seem to genuinely enjoy being around each other, and there is a big sports community. From Dan Corso at the Sports Council, there is a camaraderie around here that I don't think a lot of other towns have. Have you felt that love from the city? Do you feel like you've come in and been part of the business community and been welcomed in?
So when we did our brand reveal a year ago in August, so a year and a half ago now, if you go on our social media, all the teams, congratulations, welcome to Atlanta. We're glad you're here. And I think that's what you're talking about, right? So they've been welcoming to have, we were at the Atlanta United game, got to do the Golden Spike, all of those types of things. And I think to your point, we're not competing with them. I mean, I guess we are from the broad perspective. We're entertainment, but from a sports perspective, we are a different market. We're a different product altogether. So we are super excited to continue working with those. And that's quite frankly also one of our challenges. One of my goals, I talk about intentionality. We want to get on, we should be on every news station when you do the rundown of sports. It should be here's the Hawks, here's the Atlanta vibe, here's what the results are. And that's one of our goals as a team to get there.
And I love that because you have to be the best to do that. And the reason I say there's so many teams. If you did that, you wouldn't have a radio station, for example, because we'd have to just read everybody's scores. There's so much going on. There's no city in America because a lot of these other places had it and they're used to it, right? We're getting it all at the same time from 2 lacrosse teams and everyone tries to start something. I mean, I was there for when they tried to start the football league. Like it lasted 4 days and then there was no football league and they were left players over like in different cities. Like this happens. The XFL, the UFL, they merged. This happened. This lacrosse team here, this one here, they start. So you have to be different. So talk about the plan. Talk about what the experience is at the game. When I come into the game, how am I to come back? Right? It's easy to get people in a first time. Right?
Actually, I would say I'd flip that. For us, we found volleyball, I don't play, but I would bet most of your listeners out there have touched a volleyball at some time. It might have been in gym class. It might have been at the company picnic, but I bet you almost everyone out there listening has touched a volleyball.
If you don't show up at a beach with the intention of playing beach volleyball, I have no respect for you as a person. There's nothing more fun.
And drinking.
Well, of course you're drinking. That's why you get so tired and you end up throwing up in the court. That's just me. Anyway.
Yeah, so, getting people out, why do I go? I've got all these other choices. It's getting them off the couch, getting them to not binge Netflix, show up. We're finding once you get there, you're like, wow, this is amazing. Look at the athleticism. Look at the points. Look at the energy. Look at the cheers that they're going with the ATL and the spike. So that would be my challenge is to come on out and then you'll...
And what it sounds to me like you're saying is you let the product speak for itself because you don't need gimmicks. And that's one of the things that you see sometimes is they rely too much on gimmicks. And like this, it's got to be it's augmented reality and all this stuff. But by doing that, you're really taking something away from the athletes and how intense and how good the sport is. So
we do have giveaways. We do, we have fan engagement. We do have lots of cheers, so we have all that energy as well. But the product is pretty incredible.
Yeah. So talk about some of your favorite moments from season 1. Does anything stick out that was just like, oh my goodness, this is all worth it? It's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. I think some of my favorite is really just the team itself. I know that I think we were just blessed with an amazing team the first year. The athletes, and they know how much they mean to me. I'm one of those owners that you probably love or hate, right? Just because I know the sport, so I love being in the gym with them and try to stay out of the coach's hair.
Do you play with them? Do you jump in and be like, "That's not how you do it. Let me show you"?
Oh no, I don't want to slow the gym down. I know my place. So I think there's things like that. I think one of the moments that I do remember is our very, very first match. So we played Omaha in the season and the league opener. So it was a historic match in the Chi Center in Omaha, Nebraska. It was over 12,000 spectators.
So the whole city of Omaha. Wow.
Just 3/4. Don't exaggerate.
So we had over 12,000. So the stands were packed, high energy. We were the away team. It was a 5-setter. So in volleyball, you play best of 5. It was a 5-setter. We were down 10 to. You played to 15 points in the 5th set. We were down 10 to 13 in the 5th set. They were serving. They served into the net. We came back and ended up winning the opener. So it was just one of those. Like it was historic. We pulled out the W. The team was ecstatic. We finally, hey, we're here. We that was this and a big inflection point that I think, I won't forget. And I'm appreciative of everyone who made that possible.
So here's one really, really personal question.
Uh-oh.
Did you have a nickname when you were playing sports, when you were on the court? Were you CC?
You know what? We're going to let her think. We're going to let her think about that one. We're going to come back from break with that because that's a really important question. You've been listening to the Market Amendment on Action 106.3, and we'll be right back.